Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. My name is Ashley Waldron, and I am a P2 specialist here at ADQ. And at the heart of all reduction strategies lies pollution prevention. Many of you are likely in the program already, so this will be a great refresher for you. We also have a bunch of new information to share with you as well. Really easy agenda. We're first going to start with defining pollution prevention. We'll get into Arizona's specific P2 program, and then I'll leave you with some new resources. So if we want to accurately define P2, we really need to begin with a little history lesson. The P2 Act of 1990 was a federal law incorporated into the EPA's policies in response to the millions of tons of pollution we are generating here in the US and the tens of billions of dollars that we were spending on trying to control it. And this was a very reactive approach, right? The method of waste management was typically just treatment, disposal, or just releasing it into the environment. And this reflects a linear economic framework, right? So the traditional product design is typically take, make, and then waste or dispose. So P2 is really this pioneer of sustainability because the P2 Act established source reduction as the most effective strategy to manage waste. We'll talk more about the linkage between pollution prevention and sustainability and how P2 is essential to building a circular economy later on. But back to history. So a year later, Arizona followed suit in 1991, created a regulatory program to reduce waste at the source with a special focus on hazardous waste generation and toxic substance use. So the P2 planning program is mandatory for facilities who meet certain thresholds of haz waste generation and toxic substance use. And this helps them develop strategies to reduce their overall waste streams. We will cover P2 thresholds in the following section of this presentation, but just so you're aware, it is on slide 11. And we also encourage voluntary P2 plans. So if anyone is interested in implementing P2 activities at your business, or maybe you would like some additional technical assistance from my team, please contact us for more information. When we look at the literal definition of P2, both on the federal and the state level, we'll see that there's slight variations. However, both define pollution prevention as source reduction, and source reduction is just the elimination of waste before it is created. Now, the EPA focuses on reduction of hazardous substances and considers P2 actions those that come before recycling, treatment, and disposal. And on the other hand, ADEQ, so Arizona, specifies the reduction of hazardous waste and toxic substances. And you can find this in the Arizona Revised Statutes Title 49-961.7. P2 is defined as operational procedures and processes and improvements in housekeeping or management techniques, anything that reduces not only the actual but the potential releases of pollutants to the overall environment. And this includes air, water, and land resources or anything that can be affected by those pollutants. So you can see that P2 in Arizona is a bit more expansive. We do consider activities like recycling and conservation efforts P2 approaches. Both definitions seem to rank certain management tech strategies like conservation or recycling or treatment or disposal from the least environmentally preferred to most. So we've turned that into a conceptual framework called the waste management hierarchy. And the waste management hierarchy just visually depicts the most suitable and sustainable management strategies for all materials and waste streams. So again, source reduction, the most preferable strategy is the elimination of waste before it is created. But if waste has been generated, then the preferred management method is reuse or recycling, followed by treatment and then disposal as a last resort. The main goal of source reduction is to eliminate the risks that are associated with the release of anything from pollutants, substances, and contaminants. Arizona includes reuse and recycling efforts as P2 activities, although I'd like to point out that recycling is a reactive approach, right, to managing waste because the materials are still discarded and may considered a solid waste. The recycling phase of a product's life cycle begins after the material can no longer serve its intended original use, right? So if we followed a product, and this can be any product during the recycling process, we'll see that it often requires more inputs, right? More resources, and can even generate additional waste in order to give a product a new life. So source reduction is proactive because we are minimizing the waste at the source, and then reuse is somewhere in the middle. And this is why the waste management hierarchy follows the reduce, reuse, and then recycle model. Now, circular economy is this emerging system that is based on the reuse and the regeneration of materials and products, especially as a means of continuing production in a sustainable way. And the fundamental pillar of the circular economic framework is to eliminate waste and pollution. Minimizing our waste streams and finding new ways to circulate existing materials is especially important in production and manufacturing stages. So you can see that pollution prevention is an extremely important strategy within circular economic framework, where source reduction is really the first line of defense. Here are source reduction examples that we call P2 approaches. Now, these are applicable to most industries, so you might notice that your business already engages in P2 when we go through these examples. So operational changes, this just refers to improvements in maintenance or other practices that enhance operator expertise, maybe housekeeping measures that eliminate or minimize waste. Material substitution and modifications, this refers to replacing a raw material, a reagent, or some other substance with just environmentally preferable alternatives. Next, we have product modifications. This is referring to changing the end product through design or reformulation. And then process and equipment modifications, improvements to process and or associated equipment. And then inventory and materials management refers to the improvements in, excuse me, procurement, maybe your inventory tracking, preventative monitoring, even preventing spills and leaks during operations. Some examples of activities that result in the greatest reductions are often material substitution, material modifications, and product modifications. If you're in the program already and you've noticed that some of these apply to you, you're working on them in your business, be sure to capture those in your P2 plan if you haven't done so already. These are all great approaches that can be tracked. Now, those P2 approaches are then translated into P2 activities. And let me be clear, these can be done to any waste stream, right? Hazardous waste, solid waste, wastewater, air pollution, toxic substances, energy usage. But of course, if your facility is in the program, you do want to focus your activities on reducing either your haz waste generation or your toxic substance use whenever feasible. And we'll cover some successful P2 activities later on in this presentation. Okay, now that we have a good idea of what pollution prevention is, let's talk about Arizona's specific program. So here at ADEQ, and I wanted to quickly outline the key areas and the purpose of the program. The key areas include, number one, detailing your toxic substance and hazardous waste processes. This is saying, what is it that your facility does, right? What does your facility do? What are the primary business activities that lead to waste generation, which would be the root cause? Next, number two is outlining potential P2 opportunities. Now that we've pinpointed the root cause in our processes, what reduction strategies are the most feasible? And then number three, creating specific performance goals. Here at ADEQ, we like to use the acronym SMART for our personal goals, and that stands for specific, measurable, relevant, and time-bound. And I think that's a great acronym and to follow, and these will really help you get the most value out of the program. And in terms of the purpose of the program, we ultimately want to reduce the use of toxics and hazardous waste so that your facility can eventually leave the program. That's the greatest purpose and the greatest success. We also want to emphasize the preference for source reduction. I'm talking about the shift in overall business habits where P2 is really at the heart of all decision making wherever feasible. We want to protect and enhance public health and the environment, and of course, promote a circular economy. And everyone wants to save money, right? One of the greatest financial lessons I've learned is that everything must be paid for twice. And this is very apparent for haz waste generators. So, how can we drastically reduce or eliminate those waste streams altogether and continue to recirculate existing materials moving forward so that we can save money? Now, let's take a look at the P2 programs thresholds. A facility is required to submit a P2 plan if during the previous year they, one, filed a toxic release inventory or a TRI form. This is done through the EPA. There is a link on the screen here to learn more. Two, used a TRI listed chemical in excess of 10,000 pounds. We do want you to be advised that ADEQ has a substantive policy for the interpretation of the word use, which can be found here with this link in orange. Or three, generated or shipped off site 26,400 pounds or more of non-acute hazardous waste or 26.4 pounds or more of acute hazardous waste. And your facility only needs to meet one of these thresholds. Let's unpack these a bit on the following slides here. First up is hazardous waste. Let me be clear, this is a very brief overview, but in the top left corner is a bullseye diagram that depicts the universe of waste. And in summary, this says that hazardous waste is a subset of solid waste, which are themselves a subset of discarded materials. So a material cannot be a hazardous waste unless it is a discarded material and also meet RCRA's definition of a solid waste. So a material to be regulated as hazardous waste, it must first, one, be a discarded material, right? Materials that enter the environment or have the potential to through mechanisms not associated with the material's intended use. Two, meet RCRA's statutory definition of a solid waste, which is any discarded solid, semi-solid, liquid, or contained gaseous material that is disposed of, incinerated, or recycled. And this can be spent material or a byproduct of manufacturing process or household items such as a cleaning fluid or battery acid, recyclable materials or items that can be reclaimed or reused in some way, like distillation of spent solvents or burning used oil for fuel, may also be considered solid waste. So we have a discarded material. We know it's a solid waste. So is it hazardous? Well, a solid waste is hazardous if it's found on the FKP or U lists, or if it exhibits one of these characteristics on the slide here, which is ignitability, corrosivity, toxicity, or reactivity. Again, I would like to be very clear that waste characterization is not a one-slide topic, but just for the sake of covering all of our P2 thresholds, I thought it would be best to touch on it briefly. For more information on waste characterization, please visit ADEQ's Hazardous Waste Management webpage, and this is located on the bottom of the slide here in orange. This is Arizona's generator category universe. Here you can see the total number of each hazardous waste generators in Arizona here in the teal. And then the beige bar next to it is showing how many of those facilities are in the P2 program. LQGs generally meet the P2 hazardous waste threshold, so most of them are in the program. And VSQGs, so very small quantity generators and small quantity generators, are likely in the program due to TRI reporting or just changes recently in their generator status. Now, the other two thresholds refer to the Toxics Release Inventory, or TRI, and this is a federal program managed by the EPA, not through ADQ. And Section 313 of the Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act, also known as EPCRA, specifically requires certain facilities that manufacture, process, or use listed toxic chemicals to report how much is entering the environment, and this is through TRI reporting. The chemical list is in the hundreds. I believe we're close to 800 at this point on this list that pose threats to human health and the environment, and that chemical list is updated annually. This is also a great database that helps inform decision making by communities, government agencies, businesses, and even the public. Facilities in the program report directly to the EPA how much was used, manufactured, or processed, how much was released into the environment, and what source reduction or P2 activities they've conducted in the previous year. Now, if you're a facility that submits a TRI form to the EPA, you are required to participate in ADEQ or Arizona's P2 program. You might notice that this waste management hierarchy looks a little bit different than the one that we saw on an earlier slide. This is specifically the EPA's breakdown of production-related chemical waste managed under TRI. Back to what we discussed earlier, you can still see that source reduction is number one or the most preferred option. And this says if waste has been generated, then the preferred management method would then be recycling, followed by energy recovery, treatment, and then disposal. And there are examples or definitions on the right-hand side here. Looking at production-related waste managed over time helps us track progress in reducing waste generation and helps us track safer waste management methods. So let's look at the EPA state-specific TRI data for Arizona. And this metric is showing production-related waste managed from 2013 to 2022. This is saying, if source reduction did not occur and waste was generated, where did it go? So green, the recycling section. Arizona TRI facilities were increasing recycling efforts up until 2019 with an all-time high of 43%, but it did take a hit during COVID and hasn't quite recovered. The next is energy recovery. That's the blue section. It's hard to see because it has consistently remained at 1%, although we did see a small increase in 2022 at 2%. The treatment section, yellow, treatment efforts in Arizona have remained generally stagnant between 10 and 14% of the total waste managed. And then disposal or other releases, that is the red section, has decreased over time, but the percent of the whole is unchanged, really floating anywhere between 50 and 60% of the total waste managed. And if you take a look at the bottom right corner, you'll see some annual data that I could pull, and this was for 2021. And just to orient you, in 2021, there were 277 reporting facilities here in Arizona, and the total production-related waste managed was 107.7 million pounds. And you can see that 58% was managed via disposal. And I think it's very clear that we need a paradigm shift where P2 and source reduction is really at the heart of all business strategies, which will lead to the overall decrease in the total waste generated. And disposal is the smallest slice of the, total production related waste managed pie, especially as our economy and our population continue to grow. And a little fun fact for you, Arizona ranks 29th out of 56 states and territories nationwide based on the total releases per square mile, where the number one spot would have the highest releases, so we're 29th. And so that means there's a lot of opportunity for Arizona to increase source reduction efforts. We'd also like to increase recycling and improve tracking where source reduction isn't possible. And so with this metric here, you don't directly see source reduction, but we in the P2 program get to track all of the P2 activities. So let's take a look at some examples of the program successes. ADEQ's P2 website has a list of questions to ask yourself during the P2 plan development phase to increase successful implementation, but here are a few pointers. First is going to be management support. You really need leaders who are going to ensure that your goal progress is on schedule and who can help integrate environmental considerations into the business planning process. Next, you need a P2 team. You can appoint a champion, a facilitator, or just a point person to lead the program. And this doesn't need to be the manager. Pick someone who is passionate. Next is to know your facility. Make sure facility has an effective method for identifying, tracking, and documenting your waste streams. It's very important. And then, of course, realistic goals. Your goals must be feasible. Next, tracking your progress. Communicate with your employees And of course, celebrating your successes along the way. Recognizing achievements is a major one in terms of a successful P2 plan. This is Arizona's P2 program reporting data from 2022. So this was the previous reporting year. We had 283 facilities participating in the program, both voluntary and non-voluntary. We have the total cost savings of over $5 million in 2022. And this just goes to show that P2 is such an effective financial strategy with not only short-term returns, but long-term returns as well. And I think coming from someone in my field, a lot of times we focus our efforts on environmental impact, but if you're a business owner or a manager, your primary concern is your bottom line and you want to save money. So implementing P2 activities does lead to cost savings, and we do track and celebrate those savings each reporting year. So this pie chart is showing the category distribution of those cost savings, where you can see water conservation is a major one. And on the right-hand side here, you can see that our reduction totals for 2022 and hazardous waste, toxic substances, solid waste, and energy and water conservation. And I think this isn't listed on here, but I think we had 4 to 5 facilities leave the program in 2022 due to being under the P2 thresholds for 2 consecutive years. And I want to mention that because, again, that's the purpose of the program, and those are successes we're celebrating. I wanted to show you some of the examples of completed goals from the program. I've added some information from each facility, including why they're in the program, what type of reduction they had, the industry, and then the total reductions in cost savings. So both of these both of these facilities are in the computer and electronic product manufacturing. The first is an LQG, so they're a large quantity generator of hazardous waste. They went back and tested existing hazardous waste and determined it to be non-hazardous, which saved them $40,000. And you can see close to 50,000 pounds of hazardous waste. The other P2 plan holder is in the program because of TRI reporting. They were able to reduce their toxic substances by adjusting their furnace schedule based on loads that were greater than 85%. And this saved them 5,314 pounds of toxic substances. And you can see almost $5,000. Here is another two. We have two different industries. The first industry here is plastic and rubber products manufacturing. That is a large quantity generator of hazardous waste. They installed flow meters to detect leaks and added preventative maintenance measures, and this caused them to save 3,740,000 gallons of water, and you can see their total cost savings there down below. And the next industry is a chemical manufacturing industry, also a large quantity generator of hazardous waste, and they replaced all their facility lights with LEDs, and they saved over $231,000. And many of these larger manufacturing facilities see great payoffs with transitioning to LED bulbs. Energy conservation is really an easy way to save money. Something as simple as exchanging your bulbs or using Energy Star brand equipment or installing smart meters. This all improves your efficiency, leads to cost savings, and makes the facility safer. The last successes that I wanted to share come from a small quantity generator and a very small quantity generator in the program, both in because of TRI reporting. The small quantity generator, so transportation equipment manufacturing, saved 1,050 pounds of solid waste by reprogramming their printer settings, right? So now they're printing grayscale only and front and back, and they were able to save $630. Um, the very small quantity generator was able to prevent expired product by implementing new inventory management methods, which reduced their hazardous waste generation by 5,574 pounds. Now you take these 6 projects and you multiply that by the number of facilities in the program, right? That has a huge impact. So it's no surprise that the program is not only helping businesses save money, but it's also protecting our state. Okay, last I would like to cover just some resources for you. Some you may be familiar with already, some new. First up is MyDEQ. Everyone should be familiar with our permitting and compliance online portal. If you're not, all reporting with us is paperless. It offers this digital solution to all your reporting needs. I've included some links to MyDEQ's Help Center for you to easily find all of the tools that you need for navigating the platform as well as reporting information. Um, this is for the P2 program specifically. Please know that you can receive technical support at any time. We have user guides on how to add new users to your account, what those roles and responsibilities look like. We have P2 specific resources, and then there are other permitting and compliance resources there. I would like to be very clear, all P2 plans must have up-to-date primary contact information. When you create a plan, your plan extends anywhere between 2 and 6 years. So please choose your primary contact wisely with somebody who you can assure will be in the program for the duration of your plan. And if that changes, please reach out to the P2 team so we can try to update that for you. Next is the EPA. They offer a vast array of helpful resources. We have green chemistry. This is just P2 on the molecular level, designing chemical processes that reduce or eliminate the generation of hazardous waste. Next is safer choice, which is kind of born through green chemistry, and these are alternatives to products that contain harmful chemicals, right? There are labels specific for businesses and industries, as well as personal use. And not only are they safe, but they're extremely effective. I use them at home. Sustainable materials management. This is just the grandfather of circular economy. We talked a bit about that earlier. And this is an approach to using and reusing materials more efficiently. And then Energy Star and WaterSense. These you may be familiar with already as well. These are energy and water efficient products. From us here at ADEQ, we have resource summaries to help identify P2 opportunities on certain industries and topics. You can find them with this link here. There's everything from automotive maintenance and repair to chemical warehousing and handling. We have college and universities. We have more general fact sheets like energy conservation and green infrastructure. If you don't see your industry listed, and you want to share any successes or have suggestions for a case study, please reach out to us here at p2 at azdeq.gov. We'd love to work on some new fact sheets that can reach to other industries as well. If you've already completed a measurable P2 activity that resulted in reductions of a waste stream, we do have recognition opportunities available via the Voluntary Environmental Stewardship Program, also known as VESP. And you can find all of that information here. There's a QR code for you, and then the link below to get directly to our resource summaries. And lastly, I wanted to share a project that I have been working on. I created this comprehensive P2 reporting process flow diagram for facilities in the program. Now, it's come to my attention that the representatives responsible for completing P2 plan reporting often change throughout the year, and different report dates and the reports themselves can become quite confusing for new submitters or data entry representatives. And this is often the reason why facilities are out of compliance with P2. So I wanted to make a one-stop resource for all of your P2 reporting needs. Each step within the process includes its corresponding user guide or checklist, MyDEQ technical tips, important due dates, and keywords that will help guide you. My ultimate goal with this is to make P2 reporting as simple as possible. And even though this looks really busy from a bird's eye view, I promise this tool will make reporting much easier. So I encourage you to save this link here. It's bit.ly/P2 reporting guide, or we have this QR code here for you as well. And that is it. Thank you all so much. I would take any questions that you may have at this time. Thank you so much, and I hope to hear from you.